10.
Hello and welcome to LOP Radio live on YouTube, on Spreaker and wherever you get your podcast feeds. My name is Matt Mayer, aka Imp, and today we're talking WrestleMania 36. I just did a really professional intro where my house is extremely cramped. I say my house, my entire family's kind of gotten together for this Corona thing, and I'm like helping them out, going and getting food and things, doing the gardening and all that stuff. But the entire family's here, including like marriages and things. So it's a lot of people kind of, ironically it's a crowded isolation, but we're kind of helping everybody out type of thing. It does mean I'm extremely cramped in a parent's kitchen, and yeah, it's certainly a unique occasion, to put it lightly. So if I sound a bit different, I have brought all of my stuff, so like, I prepared for this. I've got all of my stuff to actually do this. It's just, not in a normal kind of thing. It's an exercise bike. Like if I lift up my elbow, I'm hitting the bar handle. Just to tell you how kind of cramped it all is. Yes, and I did say I was in the kitchen. Yes, it's an exercise bike in a kitchen. That's how you do it, apparently. Anyway, so today we're talking WrestleMania 36, and instead of kind of like the past few weeks, I've really focused on kind of the world of like the world that's happening now and how that's affecting wrestling, and then how wrestling's going to cope with it. I just want to purely focus on the show today. On WrestleMania 36, obviously, I'll have to touch upon the unique kind of traits of this show, but it will purely be in a kind of entertainment kind of fashion. How will it affect the show in that kind of way? Not really talking about the outside world or anything, because that's been talked about to death, and obviously it gets fatiguing, so you kind of want a mental break from it. So this is going to be purely focusing on the wrestling side. I'm not going to really bring up anything. Last week I ended up getting quite political. This week I'm going to do my best. The only times, obviously, I'll touch on it. We are live, so there will be comments coming through on YouTube. There'll be comments coming through on Spreaker. Maybe. Spreaker's pretty rare, but it does happen, trust me. So we'll be doing all that, and I guess when they're coming through. Also, with it, over here in the UK, we've been on lockdown for like this week so far, and with that comes increased internet traffic. The best way to describe it is like cars getting on a highway, and the more cars there are, the more crowded the highway gets, the slower you go. That's pretty much what is happening over here. So there's a chance with all this increased traffic that my internet might be a bit spotty, but hopefully it's not. The picture looks fine on the preview. It's not pixelating or anything. My audio sounds fine. It's perfectly fine. It'll be all right. So anyway, hopefully that doesn't affect things too much. I'll try to remember to click away from my notes to actually do the show. But the WrestleMania 36 is going to be a unique show that will be remembered for a long, long time. No fans in an empty arena, 2-night special, live from WWE's Performance Center. Oh, and it's pre-taped. Because it might have been today, actually, where New York rules came in, meaning that it's either the state or the city that the Performance Center is in, where WWE, as a result of it, wouldn't be able to produce the shows. As far as I know, the Performance Center isn't like fully closed, can't get in kind of status, but it is like they couldn't run WrestleMania with these new rules. That was what I was reading earlier. There were new reports coming out within the last, 15 minutes before set to go live, coming out from Fightful and Shaw of Staff about the actual status of the Performance Center. So this might be immediately out of date. So as has happened before, commenters, people on send me messages and things to update me. I've had them live on the show before, just keeping me up to date with stuff, with the news that is breaking. So there's a chance that might need to happen again. With all the news breaking, I obviously can't keep up with everything. I'm doing a show, damn it. I do have to tune out. I have to do the show at some point. But yeah, so that is currently happening. There might be news with the Performance Center, which could change a lot of what I'm saying on the show to do with the actual running of it. But it is being pre-taped, or it has been pre-taped, which is really unique. I've not seen any spoilers. I don't want to see any spoilers. I want to go in blind. How it is a WrestleMania where like most of the results are foretold storyline-wise, as in it's not all it's predictable. It's like, no, they're the beats that have been set up, and they are the story beats that should happen next. Which is sometimes a issue with WWE, where They're like, oh, we've had too many matches that are, I guess, the way that people would expect them to go. Let's throw them a curveball. You could do that with some of the lower card ones, where it doesn't really matter, like tag team matches, I guess, or a few of the others. But in terms of like Bobby would actually have to Black. That's got to go one way. But in the way that it's kind of working, I'm losing my thought, losing my thought train there. The way that it's kind of being set up with the stories going into the main title pictures, especially, and the main big matches, maybe not surrounding the titles themselves, like the featured headline matches. There's really only one way they should go, and in terms of spoilers and things, that's the one benefit in terms of people just posting result spoilers all over the place. The one major benefit is storyline-wise, they've done quite a decent job with most of them into setting it up of, well, this is the next place where it should go, and he kind of predicted that way. For me, I like WrestleManias like that. Like I like my not knowing what's going to happen at the Royal Rumble. I like going in there with it being millions of different types of people who could possibly win. There's all that intrigue there. But with WrestleMania itself, I like it to kind of be the final beat of a story, or I guess the first beat in the next story. In a way, it's like storylines coming to an end and setting up that next bit is what I feel like WrestleMania should be. And I just scared the crap out of myself with my headphone wire catching my zip on my hoodie. my heart's actually beating from that. That's hilarious. Anyway, hit live. That doesn't happen on live TV. Nobody does that. Except me to jump by a wire. Anyway, that's throwing me off. That has. So I'm going to go through half of the matches, and I'm going to. The point I was making was, please don't post any spoilers. Please don't send me any spoilers. Don't do anything like that. Hit me up on Twitter at @DemImplicat for all the talking stuff to do with WrestleMania. I don't know what I'm doing actually. Because with the coronavirus, I'm second guessing staying up for both nights of WrestleMania. Because health-wise, that probably isn't the best idea, given that I've still got to go out and do stuff. I'm the person who's going out and getting the shopping. I'm the person who's physically doing gardening things as well for the family. I can't really stay up for both nights super late doing aftershock for both of them. So maybe I'll just do the one and blast through everything. To be fair, I might have to call it on the night. Give it if I reckon one show to cover everything might be too much, I could do both nights. I've done it for Wrestle Kingdom, so I know I can do it. It's just with the current climate, obviously not getting enough sleep makes your immune system a bit weaker. I can't really have that right now, so we'll wait and see. So there's a chance Aftershock might be affected by this. I will do it, just not live. I might have to do it during the day or around this kind of time the next day or whatever. It's just It affects everybody, this coronavirus. It sucks. I said I wasn't going to talk about it, but it might directly affect it. So this week I'm going to talk about half of the matches. I think I'm going with the Raw side, and then on the second half of the show I'll talk about the SmackDown side of matches. Because obviously Raw's had one more extra show than SmackDown, with me being live on a Friday. So next week we'll have a lot more answers for the SmackDown side, just to get a few things finalised. Because the card is interesting. I've just realised there's one match. Oh no, it is there. Doesn't matter. So the Raw side. So we start with the big one, because what I kind of like to do is start with a big match and then work my way round, kind of do the lower cards ones first. So at least people tuning into this will get their big match thing first without having to wait. You don't have to sit through me talking for ages about Aleister Black, Bobby Lashley, or Street Profits versus Andrade Angel Garza. No matter how good those matches might end up being. The main events is really what the opinions are built on for WrestleMania. All the debates and things. No, he's better than him. Or we get amazing signs. Being British, seeing Roman Reigns as a wank pheasant. It was just perfect. I love that. It was great. So anyway, first off was to do with the big Royal Rumble challenger. Apparently, the word is that Lesnar McIntyre will not be main eventing either night. There's a chance that Goldberg Roman Reigns will main event one night and Becky Lynch and Baszler the other. I think maybe what maybe was going round. That doesn't. Now I've said that out loud. That second night can't be right. That can't be true. But whatever the word is, as far as I know, Lesnar McIntyre isn't set to main event either show. When it did kind of feel like this was the best opportunity in splitting the show in half. You could have one main event each night. It's not really the biggest issue in the world, unless they want one of the women's matches to main event the second night. Then I can kind of understand them doing it this way. but I don't think they are. I think it's going to be another men's match, be it Edge, Randy Orton, or Dusty the Fiend, Goldberg, Reigns. Like, it's going to be one of those, I reckon. So it's like, oh, it's a little bit sad. Lesnar McIntyre have been doing really, really well. That said, it's like Daniel Bryan and Kofi on the night. If you nail the story, it doesn't really matter with you being last match or not, especially with the sheer length of these WrestleManias. Like, I was looking through the list here, trying to split up which matches to do, and it's so far 13 matches, and there's going to be more added, likely. Maybe to make it an even 7 for 7 or 8 for 8. I've counted NXT as a Friday as a SmackDown one purely because there's so many Raw matches. There's a chance there'll be equal amount of SmackDown. And it's like, oh, like Baron Corbin doesn't have a match. Oh, he does, doesn't he? Because he's facing Elias. Oh, yay. I watched that one for you people. So I watched that one for you people. I'm a wrestling fan. That's how you say you people. For you people. Anyway, Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre. So this has been built really well since the Royal Rumble in terms of Drew McIntyre. It's a thing where they were testing the waters with Drew McIntyre and things were clicking and connecting. So as a performer, he was finding his feet really well as a babyface, and by the time they hit the Royal Rumble, it kind of felt like, yeah, he's a babyface, he's doing quite well with momentum. He didn't have any story or anything to build him up. He wasn't a character with really anything behind him. It was just, as a performer, he had kind of nailed that thing, and then Royal Rumble's like the start of his story triggering, and then post the Royal Rumble, they've kind of brought back a lot of his past and interweaved that, but they've done it really, really well. It's in terms of criticism, it is yet again WWE doing some fixing it after the fact or after the thing, and doing a really good kind of not change of direction, but finding a way to make it make sense after the fact. They do it a lot. But when they can do it really well, this is an example of that. My main critique is they do it so much that when you do it this often, it does kind of feel like, well, what's the point of like long-term following anything if this is kind of how you tell your stories? The answer is don't. It punishes you for paying attention long-term most of the time. But like with Bray Wyatt, John Cena, and with Lesnar, McIntyre, they brought stuff back from years ago, and then it kind of makes it feel like, oh, it was worth paying attention that entire time because now I get so much more out of this story because I have. That this is what it's great. It's just short term in terms of like the past year or so. There's been nothing building this Drew McIntyre win aside from the fact where suddenly he came out on Raw being a bit more babyface, and he was like more and more as time went on, and it was doing a good job of it. There was just like no character build really. It was like testing the waters, and the waters tested really well. And then they went with it. So it's weird, like, I'm not really complaining. It's more of a critique in the sense of, like, long-term. They clearly didn't know what they were going to do. And, of course, there was lots of reports or rumours that WrestleMania wasn't finalised till, like, really late. Or it still wasn't finalised when, like, obviously they had to change everything. And then suddenly, like, forgiveness kind of can be given for what the rest of the card looks like, given the situation. But in terms of, like, your main events, they weren't planned out. Drew McIntyre was working. He was maybe a favourite to be chosen, but they didn't know. That does affect it in terms of it getting invested in the character. I'm invested in the performer. I think I've done this before with WWE. Like, I've reached a point where I'm really invested in the performer themselves. I want to see them exceed, but I'm not invested in their character. I don't really care about the story beats for a lot of the stuff. Like when I do care, they absolutely hit home. Like, massive example, I guess Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30, another Daniel Bryan match with Kofi Kingston last year. Like, when they nail it, they bloody nail it. And it kind of, for me, that's why it kind of sucks a bit that they don't. Like with Drew McIntyre and Lesnar, I want to see the performer succeed. I don't really have much investment in the character. There isn't really much of a story other than Royal Rumble winner is going to defeat Lesnar. We've seen that before. It's nothing new because whenever they have, a few months later, Lesnar's champion again. So it's more and more difficult every year to care. But they've done a really good job with this build. Because it's weird that I am complaining, but none of the complaints have got really anything to do with the story itself that they've told since the Royal Rumble, because they've nailed it. It's all stuff from before. So I'm not really complaining about the build itself. It's more, I guess, outside stuff, which kind of it's repeating itself in this story, even though this story has been great. I've really enjoyed it. They put over McIntyre really well. Lesnar's done an amazing job of painting him as a genuine threat. All they've got to do at WrestleMania is follow through with it. Keep him, like, they've painted him as the threat, have him be it now. Bring that threat to life. Have Brock Lesnar lose to Drew McIntyre, pass on the championship. It's the kind of the perfect beat for the story. Is Drew McIntyre to succeed and dethrone Lesnar, because they built him up as this man who's got his number, who's been taking Lesnar down with the Claymore, and Lesnar's had no answer for it. It eliminated him from the Rumble. It's knocked him down multiple times on Monday Night Raw. The only time he's got Drew McIntyre is when he's blindsided him and hit him with an F5. Like, McIntyre's had Lesnar's number in this build, and that's kind of what really helped keep it fresh. And they've opened McIntyre up as well in a really effective way, showing all of his 3B stuff, him talking honestly about getting released, then having that desire to just give everything and show that he deserves to get back to WWE, going to NXT and coming back on. They've done a really good job with this build. They've given you reasons to care about McIntyre, even though there isn't much. For me, there isn't much of a story, but maybe it feels that way because it's the story we've seen how many years on the trot now, and it's after a while, after too many. If you repeat the same story too many times, like it loses its effect, and that's what's happened with the person faces Lesnar for the title angle at WrestleMania. They've done it 2 or 3 too many times. So, like, I remember with Roman Reigns, I was ready for the torch to be passed at that point. It wasn't. With Seth Rollins, it was, then it wasn't. Now with Drew McIntyre, it's kind of, I was ready for this 2 years ago, and it's still not happened. But, once again, they've nailed the build. So I'm ready to see that torch passed. I'm excited to see that torch pass. It absolutely sucks that there isn't going to be that massive crowd to give that similar ovation that we got to the Royal Rumble. Obviously, that's me with a massive assumption that they'll nail the match. It feels like a pairing where it is going to, like, it'd be very difficult to mess this up. They need some kind of outside wacky idea just to ruin the thing, to kind of put this, like, I'll give this my stamp of impossible to screw up. Because it's so, it feels they've set it up so well that, like, all the directions they can go in, it all kind of leads to, like, the perfect places for this kind of match. 2 big lads doing big lad wrestling. And it's it's follow through after this. Again, absolutely sucks to McIntyre. He's not going to be there for that massive WrestleMania ovation. It's going to be obviously a bit weird, but AEW have proven to me that you can do wrestling in an empty arena and it not be strange. Like, it's appeared like both shows have taken little influences from each other. Like, AEW taking a bit of the promo influence from WWE after WWE showed it can work. AEW showed WWE that the wrestling side can work. It's just more about the staging and production that really help it. And they're both taking notes from each other in this, like, such bizarre time to be producing shows like this. Well, bizarre's not. It's a unique time, I guess, and it's had bizarre consequences for certain things. And for wrestling, it's WrestleMania in a performance center with no fans. I don't know what they do for staging. The only thing is that going to be nice and cheap as well. It's just going to be, we're giving you some form of entertainment. The fact that we're getting anything at all is, for me, a little bit kind of crazy sounding. Like, the fact we're getting anything, like, that's remarkable to me. Again, I live, obviously, with Europe. We've been taking this so seriously for so long that it seems crazy that there's something like you were able to produce a WrestleMania within this climate. But yeah, it's still good. Like, especially when, by the time that WrestleMania airs, like, the world's going to be just that bit more, especially the Western world, especially England, I guess the UK and America, because we're not at our peaks yet. I know I'm talking about it, but it's kind of relevant in terms of, like, how we're feeling when the show itself airs. And I feel like this needs to be a really upbeat show. But they've set it up perfectly for either fan favourites to win or purely baby faces. They've set, like, to pass that torch for what the fans are desperate to see of this generation crowned. Because they just haven't been crowned, and it feels like this is another note in that. You crown them and then you follow through with it over the summer. Like, last year they crowned them, they didn't follow through. This 2020, I feel like they have to crown them, have that feel-good moment, and boy do we need a feel-good moment. I feel like WrestleMania can definitely deliver on that. This match is a massive part of it. But it's yeah, it's a follow through really for me. Like they can nail the shows, and it will obviously I'll remember it, and it will mean a lot to me given the current situation. But the follow through in terms of storytelling is way more important. There is at least they're going to have a bit of time to figure out what to do next. Because the likelihood is after WrestleMania, there's going to be a gap. Like for the first time ever, Raw will not air. Because we've had nothing like this in our lifetimes. Monday Night Raw will not air after WrestleMania in all likelihood. So what do you do? Well, you take well personally in terms of like your characters and your stories, you'd hope that they take time off, and in that time off, they creatively work and come up with ideas, so that when they come back, they have a plan. Of course, you don't know when you're coming back, and that can be a bit difficult, but you can plan a story out at least, have something in mind, and the characters can benefit from that hugely. So it might be a chance for Monday Night Raw, even if it does air, it might just be like a constant stream of matches with like somebody in a studio just going, and now it's time for this match, or something like that. Anyway, let's move on to the next Monday Night Raw match. So, big thumbs up for Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre. I got lost a bit in my little, kerfuffle of, a bit of negativity on the outside, but still, yeah, I'm fine with it. It's fine. So, anyway, Universal Champion. No, that's the wrong match. I'm going to do wrong one. Begin with you. I'm doing Universal Championship tomorrow. Not tomorrow, next week. Undertaker versus AJ Styles. That's the one beginning with that I wanted to talk about. So in terms of like setting up in terms of the future, when I was saying like fan favourites, AJ Styles comes under fan favourite. So it's going to be like a feel good show, but AJ Styles for me feels like that fan favourite who should maybe get put over. Like it's one where I don't think I'll mind that much if Taker wins. Again, given the situation, just a feel good show probably would be enough. It's difficult for me to get angry. Like I've seen quite a few people, and I'm envious of the people who have got enough mental space to get angry at wrestling booking right now. But earlier today when I was watching AEW, I was thinking, what on earth am I going to do for my show tonight? It's just because I have such small kind of space left in my head to care about wrestling that much. Like there's so much more seriousness going on that seeing people get angry at the booking of wrestling, it kind of makes me laugh a bit, just because I don't have that ability right now. I don't have that capability. I can't look at it and go, well, if Undertaker wins against AJ Styles, that's going to be absolutely horrific and destroy AJ. It's like, currently I don't care. If it's entertaining, if it distracts me, if I enjoy it, then if it's a fun match, if AJ Styles and the rest of the club, the rest of the OC, if they band together to make it a fun affair, and even if Undertaker wins overcoming those odds and it's relatively enjoyable, yeah, then I'll be fine with it. It's more of, if the show's enjoyable and it distracts me, then I will be happy with it. That's what makes this WrestleMania unique for me. Like, if Lesnar, Drew McIntyre, the reason I brought up kind of their story so much is because it leads to what, in terms of that next beat. Undertaker AJ Styles is his own weird world thing where there was nothing, then Saudi Arabia happened, and now it's kind of built from there to here, where it will die off again after WrestleMania. It's a weird bubble. Lesnar McIntyre kind of affects after this, moving on to the next stage, which is why I feel like AJ Styles is perfectly fine to lose. Like, he's had his WrestleManias putting him over. He beat Shinsuke Nakamura not last year, the year before. Who did he bloody face last year? He faced, who was it? What was the WrestleMania? Oh, Randy Orton. Yeah, I think he won that one as well. I can't remember. It's the one with they've chanted to turn off the lights, and that's all I remember from it, which kind of sucks because I felt like it was building to a great match, but until they were realising they can't even see what we're doing here, that kind of sucks. I want to say AJ Styles won, but he lost to Chris Jericho, then he beat Shane McMahon, then he beat Shinsuke Nakamura, then he beat Randy Orton, I'm pretty certain. So he's got a 3-match streak, I guess, at WrestleMania. They've not brought that up. It's only 3 matches. It feels like a heel thing for him to do. He's not undefeated, but he has had a 3-match streak. So that's a pretty decent thing. He starts to bring up against the Undertaker, but he hasn't. So he's perfectly fine for me. Where he is in the card currently, it doesn't really matter if he loses. Personally, I'm a massive fan of pushing the current era and the future over your older guys, and that's kind of what I'd use it for. Like, their attraction only has a certain amount of time before that's it. It kind of dies off. WWE in massive danger of not putting over this current era, and I feel like they just need to continue doing it. They did it with Roman Reigns' Undertaker. This is kind of like the next stage of that, put over AJ. But, again, if Undertaker wins and it's a fun match, I don't have any kind of space to care that much. Like, fine, if it's enjoyable, thank you for distracting me. That's all I can really say for it. So, yeah. Next up, the Edge. What's wrong with me? Edge versus Randy Orton in a last man standing match. So this one, storyline-wise, just magnifique. Just Randy Orton with the performance of his career. Edge just... his return generated such a strong reaction and emotion that it's so damn unique to see. You don't normally get reactions like this. Reactions. I mean, you can't really do a story like this to generate this sort of emotional reaction. Is what I'm trying to say, and it feels unique because of that. And then since the crowds have disappeared, you've had 2 promos straight into the camera where both guys do that serious tone and deliver a soliloquy. And it just worked. That's one thing WWE proved on their first show with John Cena Bray Wyatt, where jumping to the dramatic theatre does work with the serious storylines. It worked. It didn't. It's not, for me personally, it's not really worked with Roman Reigns Goldberg. Again, we've got 2 more episodes to go with that one. This Raw has the benefit of they've done 1 more show at this point whilst I'm live. But Edge vs Randy Orton, also saying more I'm cramped. On both legs of this desk there are bottles of wine. I just get one. You can have wine everywhere, in storage, just in case. Just have them by your table legs, just in case you need a glass. But Edge Randy Orton, it's built really well. That's an understatement. It's one of the best builds WWE have done for WrestleMania. I'm putting it up there with last year's Kofi Kingston, Daniel Bryan in terms of how invested I am in these characters. Amazing job by Randy Orton, equally as Edge, Beth Phoenix as well. That episode was amazing. Credited to that now in AEW, back to his crazy gimmicks. But Matt Hardy, what he did in those 2 weeks of Raw, where they added so much to this rivalry. And it's weird now going to WrestleMania thinking that he's back to doing all the obsolete and the broken Matt Hardy. Was it broken? One was broken, one was woken. I get confused which one was which now. But he added so much to that with those 2 weeks with the neck brace and stuff. Again, Beth Phoenix as well. But Edge and Randy Orton themselves have absolutely nailed this build. Randy Orton especially. It's such a conflict of emotions, and they've displayed it really well. They've, over the course since Royal Rumble till these final weeks, they've done such a good job of showing the conflict within Randy Orton, him believing that he's doing the right thing, and no matter how painful it is. Of course, Edge taking massive, and Randy Orton going too far to deliver that, I guess, in a way, because he loves Edge so much. No one loves Edge like Randy Orton does. Listening to the voices in his head a bit too much, and yeah, Edge is out there to get him. And it's such a great match. And the last man standing match, it'd be interesting to see how this plays out with the empty crowd. What do they use? How do they do that? But the way this has been built up, it's so storyline heavy that it's. I don't know if they can deliver on the kind of match this build warrants. But still, the build has been fantastic. As I lean on another wine bottle, what is this house? Next. But yeah, I say next because I've got nothing but plaudits to Edge vs Randy Orton. Every week seems to they've nailed it. I don't think I've had 1 week where I left it going, oh, that was a bit of a hope they can get a better track next week. No, week after week they've built fantastically, and the only takeaway was the fact that they've had to go to the performance center. It's a weird trade-off where you don't get those crowd reactions to the awesome story beats, but also your promos are uninterrupted, which has been a massive plus for these empty arena shows. It's John Cena Bray Wyatt was uninterrupted. Same with Edge's promo, same with Randy Orton's promo. That gives them so much more room to play around with it and deliver that message or the performance they've got in their head. It makes it so much easier. It's like doing the run through before, watching these Raws. It feels like you're watching the run through before they go live on actual television. Aside from the fact they wrestle as if they are live on television, that's a major difference. But it feels like a run through of the dramatic performance. Yeah, it's that's not a bad thing. It's kind of what it feels like. With WrestleMania, it's going to feel unique, strange, bizarre, weird, but also I'm looking forward to it as a distraction from everything else. Yeah, Edge Randy Orton has got me invested. Like what I was talking about with Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre earlier. where I'm more invested in the performer than the storyline. Like, this is the opposite. Edge Randy Orton, their storyline has got me so invested in the characters, not the performers, it's the characters, that I can't wait to see what happens at this Last Time Standing match. For me, story is really, really important. I'm not somebody who only likes to see the 5-star Meltzer classics. Like New Japan is my number one promotion, but story means a hell of a lot to me, hence why WWE will always have a place in my heart, and why I kind of feel a bit down when I have checked out of WWE, because they've kind of gone to a point where I'm like, why am I watching this crap? Most of it was because their story writing kind of died off a bit. Edge Randy Orton proves when they are on it, they are on it, and it can be some of the best television, period, which you just get so damn invested in. So more of this, please. Why? But again, my only other criticism is, why can't this be done for the modern day guys? Like, this kind of level, like, allow them this kind of story. Like, the modern day guys are kind of saddled with crap quite often, like trying to make shit shiny, turn shit into gold. That's it. And like Roman Reigns, I think before I was saying that since moving to Fox, Roman Reigns' storylines have been awful. Like, both of them. I was going to say every one of them, but I guess it's 3. But Goldberg Reigns, I'm kind of letting that slow down a little bit because, of course, what's happened. You've never really got to see how it's going to play out. I don't have high expectations, but like it's because of events, I can't really critique it that much. But with the other two, they both did their job, ultimately, in making Reigns feel like that top guy who should challenge for the title at WrestleMania. Like, he feels like the big dog. That's why going into the Rumble is like, well, surely this is the year that Reigns wins, because they've done a really good job of keeping him away from the title and building him up and keeping him relevant. Like, he feels like the top guy on SmackDown, even though he's not champion. I thought they did a really good job there. But the storylines weren't good. You can achieve your goal without the actual story along the way being that engaging or that good. Like, you reached the point you were meant to. You got to your destination, but the trip wasn't that good. Wasn't that great. So that's how that kind of like level of investment in those characters for me is pretty low. Edge Randy Orton proves they can do it. I'm so invested in this storyline. For me, Reigns, like, maybe they're overthinking it. I don't know, but it would really help if he got a storyline of this level. That he's got all the ammunition for you to use to create something. But who attacked Roman Reigns? That wasn't it. Months of Reigns versus Corbin? That wasn't it. Let's talk about Edge Randy Orton. I'm excited for Edge Randy Orton. Let's keep it at that. Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler. What's the time? 30 minutes in. Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler. I think in one of my columns I nicknamed it Vampires and Rockers. Oh, that's because Rhea Ripley came in as well in that episode. Yeah, I was proud of that little tagline. I think I then deleted it and wrote an entirely different column. But still, it was a very interesting way to introduce Shayna Baszler. Not at all what I expected. Since then, I've done a really good job of painting her as an MMA badass to be reckoned with. I feel like my Elimination Chamber, I think I was saying on the Aftershock show, that I felt like it was the right story beat. It just fell really flat because it was a pay-per-view. It wasn't a match that closes out a pay-per-view because it doesn't send you home hyped for WrestleMania. But it was the right story beat. It painted Shayna as the badass. I would have still done the same thing. It's just that it's not a main event match. It's not a main fight. It's not a. I believe my words. It's not the main event of your final pay-per-view before your biggest show of the year. Main event kind of match. But it was the right story beat, and from there, it's built really well. From there, did make me laugh this week where they had the sit-down interview with Charlie Caruso and Shayna Baszler in the ring, and it just reminded me of who watches Father Ted? There's a bit where they go to the countryside and like Father Ted's talking to the other priest. People don't know. People in the US don't know who Arnold Hannon is, but he's pointing at the sheep, saying, "Close sheep, far away." He's pointing to the tiny sheep, just like close sheep, far away. It's like he's not small. He's far away. And that's just what I thought when I was watching Charlie Caruso sit-down interview with Shayna Baszler. Like Shayna Baszler, close. And Charlie Caruso, far away. It's just like they made Shayna Baszler like a giant. I see what they're trying to do, but the staging was just a little bit off. So Shayna Baszler was like a giant. It's one of the things where, because it's got like a trick of the eye, but I'm assuming quite a few people were because they didn't quite get it right. But I was able to switch between seeing Charlie Caruso as far away and seeing Charlie Caruso as tiny. Like I was kind of interchanging about how I was seeing it, and I missed everything Shayna Baszler said. It felt serious, but she was talking about serious things. But again, close sheep, far away. Really, the episode's hilarious. But yeah, Becky Lynch, Shayna Baszler does the actual match. Who knows what's going to happen here? It might be a full-on brawl. It might be a boring like choke hold, vest hold kind of thing, working over a body part kind of match. Shayna Baszler likes to work over the hand quite a bit. I feel like Shayna Baszler's matches in the middle can lose people. Maybe the empty arena will help here because you won't feel the crowd kind of being a bit dying, especially as this match will be on a bit later. You would think they'd be a bit more tired if the card had gone ahead like normal. But I feel like this might be perfectly fine in the empty arena. It might really help and like really sell Shayna Baszler's offense, which works in that slower style. In the fast-paced, hectic world of WWE, I was always interested to see how they did it. But in the slower world of the empty performance centres, I feel like it'll work like a charm. I'm torn on what should actually happen, though. If you've had Shayna Baszler be so dominant, if she beats Becky Lynch as she's ran through the entire division, what do you do next? Part of that is genuine intrigue of what do you do next? Oh, that sounds kind of cool. But then also, if Becky Lynch wins, then you sacrifice the rest of the division for somebody who lost anyway. Even though I wouldn't mind seeing a really long reign for Becky Lynch, like a real sign that she is the top woman on Monday Night Raw, like no questions asked, just a really long title reign can help cement that, just cement the fact of she is a massive star and she's champion for a long time to come kind of thing, which is so rare in WWE. But also, they've painted Shayna Baszler so dominantly, she could have... Actually, this is probably closer to, I guess, what I talk about with New Japan quite a lot, where both sides I'm actually fine with. No matter which way they go, I'm fine with Baszler winning, I'm fine with Lynch winning. Both sides have the detractors, both sides have the benefits. I'm fine with either way. Also, again, current climate, if you entertain me, that's my number one thing. I'm looking to be distracted. Lynch versus Baszler could easily do that. Yeah, I'm fine whichever way this goes. I think I was saying earlier that a lot of the matches feel like they've got the definite direction they should go in terms of the stories that they have told. This is like the exception for that, really, at this WrestleMania. Because they've set one up so dominantly, do you put Becky Lynch over as LOL Cena wins, or LOL Lynch wins? Might become a thing. It's that natural thing. Like it's happened over here with Liverpool being so dominant in the Premier League. Being dominant and being on top automatically will irk some people, and some people will start to dislike you or start to hate you or for some reason. And I'm not one of those people that does that. So obviously I don't quite understand the mentality of it. But that happens, and that's happening with Becky Lynch. What hasn't helped is storylines. Like, she's been great. It's just that she's had nothing to do. Like, her stuff with Sasha Banks was like a massive peak moment, then a bit of a bleh, and then back to Asuka stuff was great until the bit of a bleh till Shayna Baszler came about. Unless that was like no time at all. My memory's died on me a second. Yeah, so like immediately after WrestleMania, Becky Lynch felt like she lost a lot of steam because the stuff with Seth Rollins and the stuff with what's her face, Lacey Evans, like that wasn't the right move, really. Like, she didn't get over as champion by doing that. It kind of bored people of her pretty quickly. Obviously, with the world of WWE like kind of breaking all around them, for me that was one benefit for Lynch. Like, for somebody like me, where I tuned out because it was all over the place. I was like, I'll come back once they found their feet a bit, which I normally deem SummerSlam. And then Becky Lynch at the time was having a thing with Natalya, which felt like we'll give her a solid match, and then it was Sasha Banks after that. Again, I didn't really care for the story or anything, and like feeling a bit down on, I guess, Lynch because of the Lacey Evans stuff. She didn't have that much momentum. That's the word, and that sucks. But she as a character has been solid all year in terms of like feeling like the champion, like she deserves to be that person on top. I think I was saying it as Kofi as well. Like, the world was so all over the place. It felt like his reign, his storyline wise, only got going and truly began after the summer. Like, at SummerSlam, from there, that was the first time that, or I guess it will be the weeks leading to SummerSlam in terms of building the matches. That was the first time it felt like these champions were getting their story beats to the next thing. And that for me meant that I would have been fine with Kofi Kingston and Becky Lynch holding their titles for a really long time. Purely because of that. The world was so all over the place that when it finally settled, it was like, right, we could finally get going with these championships, these stories can finally build, I can finally get invested in these characters. And obviously one got just kicked to the curb and the other person has continued on and I've done a really good job. Sasha Banks and Asuka, both absolutely solid feuds. And now we're getting into WrestleMania with Shayna Baszler. I hope this one's solid. I don't mind really which direction it takes. I think I'd go with Becky Lynch. But I don't mind, really. Either way is fine. You've sacrificed some amount of people either way, in terms of the negatives. But in terms of positives, yeah, both have got a lot of positives. I don't really mind. Match should be fine. Might be a brawly type thing. Might be a MMA holdy type thing. That's what I kind of hope it isn't. Might be quite submission-y. Given both have got submission finishes, you'd probably assume so. Alright, next up there are 3 more matches to go. Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins. The feud which hopefully ends at WrestleMania. It's been going on. It's one of those that's been going on for absolutely ages. It's one bright side. It's one where you look back and you look to like the build to Survivor Series before Seth Rollins had turned heel, and you see the little like hints and inklings in Seth Rollins' character and the way that he's talking to Kevin Owens. When you look back at it, you see all the little quirks which kind of blew up and became much bigger characteristics of the Seth Rollins Messiah character. Like the hints were there before Survivor Series, and a massive round of applause for that. The only issue really is that in terms of their friends and the feuds that have been going on Monday Night Raw, like Kevin Owens, the Viking Raiders and Samoa Joe versus Seth Rollins and his disciples, like they've been together in matches for how many weeks in a row? Which, like after Survivor Series, I guess all the way till now, like so many Raws have had those same matches or same duos over and over, same pairings, that's the word, over and over and over again, that it did get to that point where like I felt like I was ready for it to move on, even though it's like, no, this is going to WrestleMania. It's just that it's not, because it's the passing ships thing I said before, where if you're in a feud, you interact with those people in that feud and you don't interact with anybody in any other thing. About to enter a coughing state. Oh, my throat is so dry. Alright, let me just... Gotta drink that now, didn't I? Yeah, that's what I get for talking 45 minutes straight with no pause for sipping or drinking or anything. There might be a personal record. This going straight with hardly any pause or anything. I was doing the show, aren't I? Yeah, don't worry, I was just a dry cough after, again, 45 minutes of talking and not taking any sips. Anyway, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins. This should be a great match. I say should be because this could be one with loads of interference and shenanigans, but it feels like it really shouldn't be. And the Seth Rollins character is it's on the line where it could enter that state of a kind of like wimpy heel or cowardly heel, which WWE has a real bad habit of painting a lot of their top heels in exactly the same way. There's a lot of variety on this show, and I feel like this could be the best opportunity for Seth Rollins to be like, no, I am the Messiah, I don't need your help. That's not going to happen. There'll be shenanigans all over the place. You're going to get Viking Raiders, maybe Joe, I don't know what his medical status is. Or maybe not, because of the quarantine. So this is where the outside world maybe gives me what I want in terms of this storyline, where in terms of having too many people in one place, maybe there won't be those interferences, and we just straight up get Owens versus Rollins, because again, you have to keep production crew down to a skeleton. You can't have 6 people jumping in and interfering in this one match. It's like, no, it's just those two, and they should go out and wrestle. I think, I really would prefer that. It keeps that focus. After all the craziness, it boils down to just these two fighting. Like, to be fair, that's what a lot of the best, I guess, war movies or battle movies kind of do. You have your massive, absolutely massive battle, but it normally ends on just one-on-one. The story you've been building the entire time, you end on that note with those two fighting. Or whatever you want to do. I feel, yeah, that's what this kind of comes to. Like, months of big kerfuffles with the multiple people, and then finally here at WrestleMania you get your one-on-one match. So yeah, Owens versus Rollins. It should be great. Yeah, WWE with their Ring of Honor starlets. I'm looking forward to this one. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Right, penultimate match. Raw Tag Team Champions, the Street Profits versus Andrade and Angel Garza. Bit random, but also should be a good match. That's what I was saying about the Elimination Chamber card. I was like, yeah, should be a good match. Shame about the build. This is where, like, the undercard for WrestleMania is suddenly where, like, I've got such an understanding for the way that they've had to change everything and figure out so much that the actual undercard for WrestleMania is obviously a bit jumbled. You don't even know which talent you're going to have, like, at hand to do the shows as well. So this match, yeah, it feels a little bit thrown together, but it should be a great match. And I'm also really forgiving given the situation. Like, this is a perfect example of two great teams who are charismatic as hell and should, like, keep me bloody entertained for the 8 to 10 minutes that they probably get given. Like, I'm genuinely looking forward to this one, even though there's no story to it. It's Tag Team Champions Street Profits, which, again, massive thumbs up there. Done a decent job of getting those guys over. And Andrade and Angel Garza, like, properly, like, you've had them separately, and then you've seen them together on the last episode, maybe episode before that as well. But it's kind of good to see them in the Zelina Vega. I don't know what her collective will be called. Her collective's been used too much because of AEW. It need a different word. But with her recruiting the extra person, Angel Garza, when Andrade was taken out, and now they're together as a tag team. But yeah, I kind of like that little story, and the fact that, I guess, little characters interacting with each other. But it should be a good match. Yes, it's a little bit thrown together. Yes, so we're probably likely going to be an a United States Championship match. But apparently Rey Mysterio is isolating himself, so he's not going to turn up. I don't know what Humberto Carrillo's doing. Maybe something similar, I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, Andrade and Garza are entertaining as hell. So are the Street Profits. It's, Montez Ford versus Angel Garza's. That's a face-off that I'm genuinely excited to see. They don't need the fan reaction to hype that one up. Those two guys do it themselves. That's me. You heard the laughter there. Just even thinking about it, it's like, yeah, I feel like this match will do, because again, what I'm looking for from WrestleMania, there are a few story beats I'd like to see hit, but really just the feel good show. This match hits all of those feel good notes that I really kind of want right now, and that's why I'm looking forward to this. In terms of all of these matches, there's some with, I guess, the drama and the intrigues. Like, I just kind of want to be distracted and be entertained and have fun. This match screams all of those points. Distracted, entertained, and fun. So looking forward to that. On the other end of the thrown together kind of matches, Aleister Black versus Bobby Lashley. So this one definitely has got just that aura of, I guess we'll give Black a match against an opponent that's a bit tougher, but there's no story here at all. It's just two lads thrown together. But if this turns out to be Black dominating, yeah, go for it. Yes, it's the second year in a row Bobby Lashley, I guess, put somebody over, but this is exactly what he should be used for. You can build him up throughout the year, but Bobby Lashley isn't the guy to be beating someone like Aleister Black or Finn Balor at that point Finn Balor was at. So it's a really good... He's in that point where he's been built up enough where it feels like a big deal when Black does beat him, and he bloody should. There's always that doubt because it's WWE, but the way they built it up, like, Black's winning here, and this next year, it feels like they perfectly, after WrestleMania, or whenever WWE returns after WrestleMania, they've set it up perfectly for Aleister Black to build with a really clear route to the next WrestleMania, where he's in a much bigger match. Like, my big example, I guess, seeing with Randy Orton, how they did him at WrestleMania. Obviously, they didn't think it out this long, but it did work really well. First WrestleMania is in a multi-man tag match. Yes, it's got big stars in there, but he's in that multi-man tag match. Second year, he's in a non-title match against The Undertaker, like a massive prove-yourself match. And he did. The next year, he's in a title match. It's a multi-man title match. He doesn't win. The year after that, 2000 and... What? Oh, he's in the Money in the Bank. That screws it up. He was meant to have a one-on-one match where he's the featured star, but with Edge and Randy Orton. But obviously that didn't come to happen. They were both in Money in the Bank instead. I can't remember if that was because of suspensions and things or something like that. But as far as I know, the plan was then him versus Edge at WrestleMania. We're getting it now, but at that point, that would have been the next one. Like, not a title match, but he's the two featured stars of this generation. Then 2008, he's in the title match and he wins. Like, I like that trajectory. And Aleister Black's had his multi-man tag match. Now he's got his featured match. It's not really against the Undertaker. I mean, Undertaker would have been the perfect thing to prove my point. What if it's Aleister Black versus the Undertaker instead? For me, I wouldn't have minded that, but AJ Styles is the guy. Obviously, Undertaker requested AJ Styles, and AJ Styles will make him look like a beast. He'll sell his ass off, and Bobby Lashley can put over Aleister Black instead. So you get your one-on-one featured match, I guess. It still works. But I like the idea of the gradual build. It worked with Orton because he had so much. He was so young as well, and so much time and the investment. With Aleister Black, you probably don't need to copy it. You can probably jump to the next bit after this WrestleMania. But yeah, I like that idea, the slow build. And Aleister Black, off of the Bobby Lashley match, can then build to next year's WrestleMania. And I feel like there'll be a lot more emotion at next year's WrestleMania. Hopefully, if you ride the wave right, which WWE often struggles with. But again, I feel like they should be able to ride the wave this time, because it's been so disruptive. They'll have so much time off, which they're not used to, that they should be able, next year's WrestleMania should be quite solid. But this is looking like a really unique WrestleMania. That's the Raw side of it. A couple of thrown together matches which kind of hit on their purpose and have not really got any issues with them. One of them is thrown together, and it's one of the ones I'm looking the most forward to. Is I kick those bloody wine bottles again. I'm really looking forward to the Street Profits Angel Garza. I'm quite surprised that talking through this, that was the one that got me the most animated. I'm genuinely looking forward to that. It's just going to be a silly 8-minute max tag match, but it's going to be pure fun for those 8 minutes, and that's really what I want right now. I'm assuming most people going into WrestleMania, they're not thinking in that mindset, which is why Lesnar, Drew McIntyre, Taker, Styles, and Edge, Orton, Lynch, Baszler, of course Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, they're your big storylines. There's a lot of them, which is also, so it's kind of a bit imbalanced at the moment, where it feels like a lot of Raw matches and nowhere near as many SmackDown ones, which is odd given that Raw's now shifting towards the B show with WrestleMania, with SmackDown on Fox being the A show with Reigns and Goldberg and whatnot. But maybe more SmackDown shows would be added, so you've got an equal balance between the two shows. Maybe there's no SmackDown tag match, where there probably will be, something like that. Otis versus Ziggler probably will get added, maybe to a pre-show, who knows. Sami Zayn, Daniel Bryan as well, that's likely to be added. It's not currently confirmed for this, but I reckon by the time I'm live next week talking about the second half of the show, that we'll have maybe a couple more matches and SmackDowns will be a bit more fleshed out. So WrestleMania, too big for 2 nights. What they've actually done is ended up adding even more matches, so you've got 2 7 or 8 match cards. So it's going to be quite long. Both nights. Which again, talking about my own health, which is why I'm kind of with Aftershock, I'm umming and ahhing a bit. I don't really know. We'll see. So I've accidentally jumped to the comments immediately because I saw one that kind of caught me off guard a little bit. So I'm going to quickly talk about this comment I've just seen, and then I'll sign off, say goodbye, see you all next week kind of stuff. So the WWE PC is shutting down. Right, have they recorded then? That's my immediate next question, because that news was breaking as maybe news just as I was going live. I'm currently searching it just to see if it has properly shut down. Loaded. That's my own podcast. I don't want to see my own podcast. I want to see the news. There's nothing there. Well, that sucks. I can't see any news. I'll look later. Ratings. Who cares about ratings? It really doesn't matter right now. So WWE PC is shutting down. Yeah, number one question then, in terms of this preview, is did they get everything recorded? As in SmackDown, Raw, SmackDown, and WrestleMania? Because I think the news coming out was WWE from Thursday, which is today, wouldn't be able to record any episodes because of the new laws coming in. So if those rules did come in, then obviously they weren't able to record, and well, hopefully they got all this stuff done. Because ahead of time they should have known. Hopefully. So, yeah, confirmed by me being given the news. So, thank you, Glenn Hunt, for informing me there. So, anyway, check Spreaker, Imp. You never check Spreaker. That's why, because there's never anything on it. Anyway, 54 minutes in, I've gone through everything I have for this half of the show. Hopefully more gets added so I can talk about it next week. I'm looking forward to the distraction. It's WrestleMania. I'll at least try to get hyped. I can't do my normal thing of going out and getting food or beer or whatever. I get what I get kind of thing, and we'll see how that goes. So anyway, I will be back next Thursday to preview the second half of WrestleMania 36 with the SmackDown half, whatever matches get added tomorrow or Monday or whatever, and whatever Raw matches, if any of those get added, I will talk about them as well. Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair, I will be talking about that one because it's NXT. I've decided it's a bit lopsided at the moment. I thought I'd give that one to next week, so I'll be back next week to talk about that, and obviously then it's WrestleMania that weekend, so hopefully they got it all recorded and I can talk about those shows on Saturday and Sunday next week. I think I've drifted towards doing both, even though it's maybe not wise. I'll just stay in. I won't go out till I've properly recovered. Hopefully I won't need to do like a massive shop for the parents. We'll see how that goes. So yeah, again, cramped household with like, everybody coming over here. It's kind of nice, like in the movies where you see the entire family kind of come back for a reason and stay together for a period of time. Obviously there are people working from here, so it's like things set up where things are way more busy, and I've got like playing on my PlayStation with my friends back home over the internet, and like there's nowhere really to do it because everywhere's taken up, so I'm having to find places to entertain. Anyway, I'll be back next Thursday. That's a massive distraction. I'll be back next Thursday to preview WrestleMania, but please do check out the other Lords of Pain radio shows in the meantime. Live after AEW Dynamite, we have our new AEW post show, Dynamite After Dark, with Jamal and Jeff talking about the show immediately after it is aired. It's currently up on our Spreaker. Hopefully I have time tomorrow to put it up on the YouTube page for Lords of Pain. I said I would last week, but I ended up not having time. Like, understandable circumstances, I think it's fair to say. So it's the same thing. Like, tomorrow I've got quite a lot on my plate, but it is my plan to hopefully get it up on the Lords of Pain YouTube channel, Dynamite After Dark. But again, of course, with outside circumstances, there's a chance I'll be too busy to maybe do that. Fridays is the Legacy series with NWA. However, Ms. Fan and Mystic are currently with the Wrestling Mystery Bag, as NWA Power is on hold for the COVID-19 whilst that blows over. So Ms. Fan and Mystic are currently doing a new series called the Wrestling Mystery Bag, talking about, I think, 3 random matches. Maybe I should listen to the show before plugging it. Saturdays is reserved for All Elite Wrestling. Sundays reserved for WWE pay-per-views. Obviously, next weekend is WrestleMania, so we'll have coverage for that with Aftershock, be it whenever it is. We'll see how things are. Tuesdays is Kingdom of Honor with Jamin and Jeff talking at ROH and New Japan Pro Wrestling, and also the Quick and the Painless Pro Wrestling podcast. Pro Wrestling, not Teletubbies. The Quick and Painless Pro Wrestling podcast has also made its way to the LOP/Wrestling Headlines site over on the Lords of Pain YouTube channel, so go listen to that as well. I've already said that I'll be back next week to talk about this. Thank you to everybody for listening, for smashing that like button. People say that on YouTube. For everyone on the Spreaker as well, with all the reviews on iTunes, on Google, whatever. I don't know what rating Google uses. Proof I use it. On Spotify as well, iHeartRadio, wherever. Thank you for listening. I'll be back next week with that. Good night.